Hi friends, it's me, your friend Nance, from the New Jersey Agricultural Society's Learning Through Gardening program. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. I wanted to talk to you because November 25th is Maize Day. Do you know what maize is? Maize is another word for corn. Do you like to eat corn? I know I like to eat corn. I like to eat corn on the cob in the summer, and I like to eat corn when I go to the movies. I like to eat popcorn. Do you like to eat corn? We eat a lot of foods with corn in it, so I thought it would be really interesting for us to learn about corn so we can celebrate Maize Day on November 25th. What I wanted to let you know is I found this great book. It's called T.C. Cobb and the Cornstalk Riddles. It was written by Susan M. Pankey. And Susan M. Pankey wrote it for the Nebraska Agriculture in the Classroom, and she was funded by the Nebraska Foundation for Agricultural Awareness. This is a great book, and it's a really nice story in there, but it also has some great riddles that we can use to learn about corn. You're welcome to ask me to borrow this book. I'd be happy to send it to you if you're interested in reading the whole story. But what I did is I used the riddles from the book so that I could teach you a little bit about corn today. Let's start. Here's the first riddle. You use your two eyes to see with, and you have just one nose to smell. But a corn grower has something extra. You have only two. Can you tell? You only have two of these, but a corn grower has many. What are they? You can look at the picture for a clue. Do you know what they are? Well, they're ears, of course. We listen with our ears, and we have two of them, but we also call it an ear of corn. So someone who is a corn grower has many ears. That was a good one. Here's the next one. There's an old name for corn from before you were born. That sounds like a fun game to play. You twist and you turn till you finally learn how to get to the end the right way. Do you know the name of the game and what is the old name of corn? And there, I'll show you the picture up close. And if you were listening carefully and you know what day it is on November 25th, you'll remember that the correct answer is maize. And you'll notice that we've got two mazes here. The first maze, M-A-Z-E, is the maze that we go into, like a corn maze, that we try to find our way out of. Or sometimes they're sunflower mazes. Also, there's mazes that we do on puzzles on with a piece of paper, right? So this is the game or the puzzle. This is maize as well. Sounds exactly the same as the first one, but you'll notice it's spelled M-A-I-Z-E. And this maize is a synonym for corn. Here's the next riddle from the book. You've seen belts made out of leather. Some are made out of cloth or from beads, but a corn belt won't hold up your pants. Instead, it holds plants, stalks, and seeds. Do you know what the corn belt is? We don't wear a corn belt, just like the clue said, but I'll show you what the corn belt is. This is the corn belt in the United States, and it's called the corn belt because it's right in the middle of the United States, and it's long and thin like a belt. And the corn belt is the 8 states in the United States that produce the most corn. And those states are South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Those are the states that make up the Corn Belt, where most of the corn in the United States is grown. Moving on. Name something a corn grower makes. It sounds like you're paddling a boat. There are lots on the ground, but also are found underneath each ear's husky green coat. What does every corn grower make and every ear of corn have? This one I thought was one of the harder clues in this book. But if you look at the picture, it's a picture of a boat. And you were supposed to think of the song, Row, Row, Row Your Boat. And the answer to this riddle is rows. Right? And let's think about the question again. There are lots on the ground, but also are found underneath each ear's husky green coat. So every corn grower makes long rows to plant their seeds in. And also there's long rows of kernels on an ear of corn. Think about it when you eat corn on the cob. There's lots of rows of corn. And here's a fun fact about the rows of corn. Did you know they're always in an even number? True story. Here's our next riddle. One starts from something so little, but grows up to be straight and tall. The way its name ends, the other begins. What are these plants and seeds called? So what is another name for a corn plant? What is a corn seed usually called? Well, the answer to this riddle was a little bit tricky too. What threw me off was those letters. But the answer was in one of those previous words. We know that one is going to start the way the other one finishes. And our answer for this riddle are stalk and kernel. Stalk ends with a K, kernel begins with a K. So the plant, a corn plant, can also be called a corn stalk. And a corn seed can also be called a kernel. So the answer for this one, stalk and kernel. To grow big and strong, people eat food. And so it's the same for corn too. But what kind of food does a corn kernel need to sprout roots and grow taller than you? And the riddle this time is, what are 3 things does every corn kernel need to grow? And a corn kernel is no different than any other plant, boys and girls. All plants and seeds need the same 3 things in order to grow. They need water and warmth from the sunlight and nice, good, fertile soil. So what was that again? Sunlight, water, soil. A corn kernel is a tiny plant. And there's a picture of a corn kernel. And I've got a corn kernel right here to show you. Look how tiny. And they're telling us in this that a corn kernel is a tiny plant. Does this look like a plant? Not like one I've seen before. Let's find out more. A corn kernel is a tiny plant. One end grows up and the other end down. But the point is, which end of the kernel grows down in the ground? So let's think about that for a minute. Like I said, I've got this seed right here. I got it right out of this packet. This packet of seeds looks just like this. On the back of it's all of the directions that tell me how to grow. But something that's not on the back is about which way to plant the seed. When you're planting corn seeds, boys and girls, what you need to remember, the point goes down. So if I was going to put this in the ground, I would plant it point going down so that the roots can start going down this way. And then from this part up here, this top part, will come the plant. And I'll show you a diagram of that so you can get a better look of it. Ooh, that's upside down. Sorry about that. So there's my roots. This primary root is called a taproot. So there's the taproot, here's the seed, and it starts to grow. You can see it's planted point down. Down comes the roots, and then up comes the first leaves. So then that will start growing the stalk. What's outside is hard, but not dull, nor is it firm where the little plant starts. If rhyming's your game, see if you can name these 2 very key kernel parts. What is the outside of a corn kernel called? Where does a new corn plant begin? This one was a hard one, and you really need a picture to show. So here we go. We can see our picture. The riddle said what's outside is hard but not dull. And remember it mentioned about rhyming. So it rhymes with dull. So the outside part is called the hull. That's that hard outside shell on the kernel of corn. And it says, nor is it firm where the little plant starts. And the word that rhymes with firm is germ. Now this is not the kind of germ that makes us sick. This is a different kind of germ. It sounds exactly the same and it's spelled the same. But inside the seed, this is where that little plant is, and you can almost see the leaf of it, right? And you can almost see the leaf and a little part of the root starting right here. We know that at the tip we plant it down because we know that that's where the roots are going to come down. So the outside of the kernel is called the hull. And where does a new corn plant begin? Begins at the germ. The next one. Some people wear tassels on shoes. And you will find tassels on curtains and clothes. But what kind of tassels do corn growers see when they look up and down their rows? Do you know what a corn tassel is? Can you name the parts of a corn plant? And here's the parts of the corn plant. And the very top part of the corn plant is called the tassel. What happens here is the tassel makes the pollen, and the pollen drops down onto the silk, and then the pollen travels down the silk, and that's what makes the kernels on the cob. Corn on the cob tastes sweet and juicy, and popcorn at the movies is fun. But have you heard of a corn called dent? And why out of many it's the one? What is dent corn? Why is it important? Okay, and dent corn, well, here's some common types of corn, right? So you can see, and I'll hold it close, we've got popcorn and sweet corn. That's where we get corn on the cob is sweet corn, and also the corn that we get out of the can. Indian corn is this ornamental corn that we see this time of year. People hang it up for a decoration. It's got lots of different colors on it. Here's some dent corn. It's much thicker, you can see. This is flint corn, and this is flour or white corn. So there are lots of different types, but dent corn is the most popular kind. Out of all the different types of corn, 90% of the corn that we grow in the United States is dent corn. And dent corn is called dent corn because when it dries in the sunshine, there's a small dent in the top of each of the kernels. It's also called field corn. And it's really important because, like I said, it's the most popular type of corn that we grow here in the United States. When the stalks are tall and it's almost fall, can growers have much to do? To harvest their crop, they must work nonstop, but a machine can speed the job through. What does a farmer use to separate the ears of corn from the stalk? Well, he uses a machine, and the machine is called a combine. So the word is called combine, and it's this big machine here in the picture. And the way that it works is that there's metal points or teeth that divide the corn into rows. And then there's rollers that scrape the ears off. And it goes back, and there's this circle thing in the back. It's called a hopper. And when it goes back into the hopper, it spins around and it breaks off all of the kernels. And then out of the back spits out all of the pieces. And then in this big piece right here that goes, it spits all of the corn and all of the good things. Not really spits, but it transports it. Lots of people use elevators to go up and down floor by floor. What kind of elevators do corn growers use when they have lots of corn to store? Well, this is a picture of the answer for this riddle. The answer for this, where the corn is stored, is called a grain elevator. And what happens on the grain elevator, and I'll hold the picture up again so you can get a good look. On the grain elevator, the corn is drawn up or elevated into the storage bin. And then they can slowly, gradually fill up each of the bins to store them. It's called a grain elevator. You know that corn kernels are useful, and I certainly don't mean to rant, but how is it so from storage they go on to another corn plant? Where do corn kernels go after being stored in a grain elevator? What kind of corn plant do I mean? Well, the kind of corn plant that they're talking about is a processing plant. And at a processing plant is a mill or a refinery where the kernels are processed so that they can be put into the form that they're going to be ultimately used by consumers, by people who are going to use them like you and me. You love fresh-picked corn in the summer and corn cereal all year through. But there are many other foods made from corn. So who eats more corn than you? Who eats most of the corn grown in the United States? So you have to think back. A couple of riddles back, they were talking about the most popular corn that's grown, and that was called dent corn, right? Dent corn is also known as field corn, and I told you that it was 90% dent corn grown in the United States. Well, who eats that? People don't eat dent corn, but beef cattle, chickens, pigs, and other animals do. So that dent corn is used as feed for these animals. And what do we use these animals for? For food for people, right? Many of us eat beef and chicken and pork for dinner every night. So animals eat corn, but I love it too. It's as good as the gold from Fort Knox. For breakfast, I eat my corn toasted with milk or straight out of the box. What breakfast food is made from corn? That's right, cereal. Corn Flakes is just one example of a cereal that's made from corn. Last one. We eat lots of corn in many good foods, and we use it to bake and to cook. But did you know I have corn on my back, and there's even corn in this book? What kind of corn is on my back? How can there be corn in a book? Well, we know that corn goes to a corn processing plant to be processed, and it's made into many different foods. But corn is also not just made into into foods, it's also made into a lot of different products. And I'll show you these pictures. Here are some of the products that you might see. Corn oil, corn flakes, we talked about that. Corn starch is a big one, really important. Corn meal. Some other things, products that we get from corn are on this side. When they are, can you see them there? Soda, plastic, ketchup, toothpaste, soap, dog treats, and even ethanol, which is fuel used to power things like cars. So corn can be used for a lot of different things. And what makes it so great is that we can keep renewing it. We can keep growing corn year after year. So those were Corny's jokes. They were pretty funny, some of them. Some of them were harder than others, but I know that I learned a lot from reading that book. A couple of things that I wanted to do before I say goodbye to you. I wanted to show you something that I started growing, and let me see if I can get my camera down so you can see it. Oh, there it is. Okay, and this is a piece of ornamental corn. This is not working. Hang on one second. Hang on, that didn't work at all. But anyway, it's a piece of ornamental corn that I put into water. So it's been sitting in a piece, it was all dried out when I put it in, but now I'll hold it up so you can see. And you can see it's starting to seed. It's starting to grow. So I'm gonna let it keep going and keep growing for a little while longer. And once it starts really growing, I'm gonna put it into some soil. So when I, next time I see you and make a video, I'll show you again to show you how my corn is doing. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is about corn itself, about a bushel of corn. Here's something that I found about 1 bushel of corn, about how big a bushel is. This basket doesn't look very big. So I looked it up. A bushel of corn is about 9 gallons. So a bushel of corn would be about 2 of these buckets. And for 2 of those buckets would be 1 bushel of corn. So let me show you what I learned about 1 bushel of corn. 1 bushel of corn weighs about 56 pounds. It has about 72,000 kernels. You know that the kernels are the seeds. It can be used to make biodegradable plastic bags. Corn can be used to make plastic. We use plastic for so many different things. 1 bushel of corn is enough protein to raise 3 chickens. We know that corn is used, that field corn, right, is used, that dent corn is used to feed animals like chickens. We know that 1 bushel of corn gives us food and fuel. Ethanol was one of those products we saw on the last page, was ethanol, and we know that that is a fuel that can be used. 1 bushel of corn sweetens 320 cans of cola. Remember we saw that soda on that last page? So it can be used, corn can also be used as a sweetener. Corn produces 33 pounds of fructose, which is a corn sweetener. So I'm going to put that one right here by that other cola one that I put. I should have started grouping them together, I think, right? It has 14.5 pounds of protein feed for animals. Here's the one with the fuel, 2.5 gallons of ethanol. 31.5 pounds of cornstarch. Cornstarch is what we use to make the product from corn that you can use to make clothing and books and all other sorts of things. And last one, it produces 2 pounds of corn oil or margarine. We use that for cooking. So 1 bushel of corn, look at it, it's amazing how much we've learned today about corn. So many things that corn does for us. I'm so thankful in this month of gratitude for corn. I'm going to try planting some corn in my garden this year. How about you? I don't know. It's something to think about for sure. Okay, guys. I know this was a long one. Thanks for staying with me. Thanks for listening. Until next time, remember, always give plants a chance.